Hi everyone, uh, I welcome you back all. This is our next video in the Azure networking series. In the last video, we learned about Azure VNET, and you know that if you have seen that video, that by default resources in the different VNets cannot talk to each other. If you haven't seen the video, I strongly suggest please go ahead and watch it first before you start looking at this one. I would be putting the link in the description below. In this particular video, we'll take one step further and we'll see how we can make different virtual networks or VNets to communicate with each other. And for that, we would be using something called VNet peering as it shows in our screen. Once your networks or your VNets are paired, resources in the different virtual networks would behave as if they're part of a local network or the same network. In this video, we'll first talk about what's VNet peering, and then we'll see the types of VNet peering which we have, and quickly look into some basic features, and then we'll jump into the Azure portal and start configuring our VNet peering. So let's begin, guys. So what's VNet peering? Basically, it's a seamless connectivity between two different Azure virtual networks, which enables you to connect those resources to each other. And once your different virtual networks are paired, they appear as one for the connectivity purposes. Like you can ping, you can RDP by using the private IP addresses. You won't need public IP addresses to communicate between two different VNets. And while this is happening, the traffic remain private between those VNets. It never leaves the Microsoft backbone. It stays on the backbone itself, so it's pretty fast. And very important thing, you will not require this connectivity or this peering to happen. No public internet, no gateways, or no encryption is required in the communication between the virtual networks. So that's very important. Remember, guys. Now, the peering can be of two types, right? The first one is the virtual network peering, which connects Azure virtual networks in the same region or the same location. Like we have two virtual networks in West US 2, West US 2. That would be eligible peering connectivity between the same region, and it would be known as a virtual network peering. What if you have a virtual network in two different regions? So Azure also has a solution for that called global VNet peering, which basically allow to connect your Azure virtual networks in different regions. That global VNet peering gives you a very good platform to provide a kind of a global availability of your application or your infrastructure, right? Then one thing which you need to remember is your global peering is not possible with a government cloud. Only regional peering is allowed. You understand that other than the public cloud which normally we use, a specific cloud offerings are there from Azure platform, which is used by different countries or the government organizations. For those kind of a cloud, you cannot use a global peering. Only the regional peering would be applicable. So you can see here, if you have a VNet 1 on the region 1 and we have got VNet 2 and VNet 3 on the different region, then the peering between these two would be known as a regional VNet or the VNet peering, and peering between these region 1 and region 2 would be known as the global VNet peering, right? So let's see what kind of a demo architecture we are going to use, or this is basically the diagram which you see, or which we are going to use for this demonstration for this VNet peering. If you look at it here, we have got three different virtual networks. So what I have done is, just to keep the video short, I have kept this VNet and this VNet ready. I'm in the headquarter VNet in West US 2, and the branch 1 VNet into the AP Southeast I have kept ready for you. In branch 1 VNet, I have also kept one virtual machine that is known as VM2 without a public IP address. It only has a private IP address, no public IP address, and the private IP would be in the range of 172.16.31, and we'll talk about it when we go into the demonstration purposes. Now in the demonstration, I would be creating this branch 2 VNet for you guys. This branch 2 VNet would be in West US 2, and I would be using this IP range. And the very important thing when you start planning your planning for Azure VNet or the Azure VNet peering, you need to understand that if in future you want to connect two different virtual networks or your virtual network with the on-premise network, your IP address scheme or the IP address space should not be overlapping with each other. That's why you can see I have kept it totally different. If you can see, look at the IP ranges which I have used here. I have kept them totally different so that they should not be overlapping to each other, because that way it would be very difficult to I mean, it's impossible to achieve the peering. It will fail. The peering would fail. It will not get connected. Now, once we are done with the we are done with the creation of a VNet and the peering, and I'm gonna connect to this VM1, which is there on the headquarter VNet. It has got a public IP. This is the only VM which we have which has got a public IP, right? So I'm gonna connect from my laptop to this VM1, and then as we would be creating a peering between headquarter VNet to branch 1 VNet and headquarter VNet to the branch 2 VNet. Then I would be able to communicate or RDP into these two machines, else it would be difficult, right? Or it will not be possible rather than difficult, right? Now this is one important thing which you need to remember from the exam perspective, that peering is not transitive. So what does it mean? Basically, let's say we have three different VNets, and we have a marketing VNet, we have a research VNet, and a sales VNet. If my marketing VNet has got a pairing with the sales VNet, and the research VNet also has got a pairing with the marketing VNet, it does not mean that the sales VNet would be able to communicate with the research VNet. So that's why it's not transitive. It has to have a direct peering connectivity between these different virtual networks. So that's enough of the PPT, guys. Let's jump into our portal and start configuring things. So this is my Azure portal. As I said, if I go to the virtual networks, I have kept these two virtual networks ready for you. There's a branch 1 VNet and the headquarter VNet, and you can see one is in Southeast Asia and another one is West US 2. Now let's quickly create one more network, that is our branch 2 network. I have got already a resource group there for this particular demonstration called demo 1. I'm gonna give it a name, branch 2 VNet, and it is going to be in West US 2. Next comes the IP addressing. For this specific VNet, if you remember, I have taken the IP range of 192.168.0.0, so we're going to use the same one now. So I'm going to delete one which is Azure is offering to me, because I have already used into another VNet. So I'm going to use 192.16.0.0/16. I'm going to use this IP address space. Now I need to add a subnet, so I'm going to add the subnet. I'm going to call it subnet 3, and the range would be let's say we'll go to 192.168.1.0. I'm taking totally separate IP address range here so that there's no chance for overlapping, right? Oh, sorry, I think I need to change this one, and I'll go for 192.168.1.0.0 and /16. That's it. And now I'm gonna make this one, I missed 1.8 there, so that's why it was not accepting that. It was a typo. 192.168.1.0/24. I'm not going to take any service endpoints because we have got a separate dedicated video for that. So click on that add. So I have got my subnet ready. Click on security. You understand all these bastion hosts. I don't want to do that. This is basically, you can use it for taking your virtual machines RDP or SSH safely. If you want, you can have an additional DDoS protection enabled. Basically, as a default one is already there, but if you need a paid one or an advanced one, you can enable this one as well. If you want to add an Azure firewall, you can enable that as well. We are not doing any of these things. Let's click on tags. I'm not putting the tags, review plus create, and I'm going to create up the virtual network for you guys. So now it's initializing my deployment. In the meantime, it initialize and complete the deployment, let's go and start creating the virtual machines. As I said, if you look at it, let's go to the virtual machines. I already got a VM2 ready, and if we go back to our demo architecture, so we have got this VM2 ready with this 162.16.31.x, the some IP in this range. Now we will create VM1 and VM3. I will be creating VM1 in headquarter VNet with this IP range, and it will have a public IP, and then I'll be creating VM3 without a public IP in the branch 2 VNet which we just created. Let's go back to our portal, and you can see this is VM2 and it is in Southeast Asia and it doesn't have a public IP address. So let's add one more. I'm going to use the same demo one virtual machine. Let's first create VM1, and it is to be in VSTS2. I don't want any redundancy. I'm going to go for Windows Server 2016, and let's say I want to go 2 CPU or GB of RAM. Let's put the username and the password. We have a detailed video on the how to create a virtual machines. If you guys are interested, you can go and check that as well. I'm gonna put a password. Okay, I'll just keep the RDP port open because I'm gonna RDP it from my laptop. I'm gonna go with the default disk which is being offered to me. Now, because in West US2 we have 2 different virtual networks, so it's loading for us. So here you have an option to select whether you want to go for branch 2 VNet or headquarter VNet which we have already created. So this VM1 is supposed to go to our HQ VNet as per our diagram, and this HQ VNet only have a one subnet. If you look at it, there's nothing here, so it's by default it's been selected for us. So our VM is going to get an IP from this range 10.0.1.0/24. For this I need a public IP, so I'm keeping it as it is. I'm keeping the security group and the public inbound port as allowed, and then click on management. I'll just keep everything on default. I'll just disable the boot diagnostic, we don't want that. Click on advanced, nothing here. Click on tags, nothing here. Review plus create, and it take a bit of time in final validation. Once it's done, we would be able to create it quickly, and it's done. Let's click on create. So now we have got 2 virtual machines as per our diagram. We have got this one with a public IP, we have got this one without a public IP, and let's go to create a VM3 in the branch 2 VNet. Go to home, click on virtual machines. So it takes some time before start showing here in the dashboard, so I'm going to quickly create another one as well. If you look at it, so I'm going to use this demo 1, and the virtual machine name would be VM3, and this is going to be in West US2, no redundancy, and I'm going to use Windows Server 2016. This time I'm going to use one virtual CPU because I don't have a quota of more than 4 CPUs here. So let's click on put on username and password. So that would be my username, and this would be my password. I'm just gonna open this RDP, click on next, stay with the default disk options, and here you can see again we have given option. This time we will go for branch 2 VNet, and branch 2 VNet will have IP from subnet 3 with the range of 192.168.1.0, and for this I do not need a public IP because I want this traffic to stay within the Microsoft backbone, and it should be happening on the virtual IP, on the private IP addresses. So I'm not going to take a public IP, and I'm going to keep the network security groups and the allowed selected ports on the basic one because I'm going to do the RDP between the virtual networks. So I'll keep this RDP 3389 open. No load balancing, nothing in the management, keep it default, keep it default. Tags I don't need. Review plus create is gonna get the validation done, and then we would be able to click on submitting our deployment. Gonna take some time, and yes, it's ready. Click on create. So our deployment is getting ready. So if we go to home, and if we go to virtual networks, let's say to headquarter VNet, and we have got VNet, our branch VNet 1, branch 2 VNet, all are ready now. It's still in progress. Okay, we it throws us out of that particular dashboard. If I go to HQ VNet, you look at it here, the peering, and currently there is no peering. So you can see that, right? There's no peering here. So we'll come back here. I want to show you something. If I go to virtual network machines, I'll just refresh it. I got two machines, VM1, VM2 ready, and this one has got a public IP address. So I'm going to log into this one first, and I'll show you that I cannot log into others. DP. So that would be 247.246.155. I think it's correct. 52, 247, 246, and 155. Click on connect. So I'm gonna connect to this machine. Let's put our username and password. Click on OK, and we are gonna connect to this machine from my laptop or out of the Azure platform through the internet. Now let's minimize this one and see if we have got two machines ready. If you look at it, this has got 10.0.1.4 as a private IP address, and we have already a machine in Southeast Asia in a different VNet, and it has got an IP address from the range. It does not have a public IP address, it has got only private IP address, and it is 172.16.31.4. so let's see, can I reach to this virtual machine from there? It's still booting. Let's open the command prompt in the meantime. It's gonna take some time. So this is the local server console is opening, so I don't want this one. I'm gonna close it. I need a command prompt. Click on command. So if you try to ping it, that was 172.16.31.4. it will timed out, although by default even Windows Server do not allow the ping or ICMP ping request, it will time out. So let's open the ping here on this machine first. I'll close it. I'll open my PowerShell. Okay, I'll quickly create a rule for opening the ping so that I can ping it from other machine. So I'll create a rule quickly. So this is net firewall rule. Bit slow. Let's put the display name, and the display name would be allow ping, and the protocol would be ICMP version 4, and enter. It's done, right? Let's quickly go and try to do the MSTSC. If we have not created the peering yet, guys, please remember this. So let's see, it's 172.16.31.4. it's trying to connect. Let's see what happens. It's gonna fail ultimately because there is no peering between these two machines, so it's not gonna work. So let's go back and quickly see how we can create peering. Refresh it. Let's see our machine, all machines are ready. You can see that. So this has got 192.160.14. let's see whether this works or not. See, this one fails. So let's go back and check what was the IP address, 1.4. so let's see whether this one works or not. So I'll go to MSTSC. Okay, so if I go 192.168.1.4, so this also fails because there's no peering yet in place. It's not gonna work. Okay, so let's go back and create the peering first. Maybe some of you want to really see whether this fails or not, right? So let's wait for some time and see whether it fails or not. I'm pretty sure it's gonna fail. See, it's gonna fail. So click on OK and minimize this one. Let's go to my home and go to your virtual networks. Let's see this peering first. So click on peering here and click on add here. Give it the name of your peering from headquarter to VNet. So let's go back to our PPT. If you see here, So we will create a peering between this VM1 to VM2 first, and this would be peering to a different region. This would be a global peering. Okay, so let's go back. So I'll call it headquarter to branch 1, right? And it's going to be resource manager, not a classic one. If you know your resource ID, you can put a resource ID. I do not know that. We have noted it down. So we'll put some details so that your wizard can identify where we are going to connect. So the virtual network would be this one. See, headquarter to branch 1, and this is the headquarter. Sorry, this is the branch 1 VNet. So I'm going to select this VNet. Once we select it, name of the peering, from now it's asking from peering from a reverse direction. Here it is headquarter to branch, and then branch to headquarter. So I'm gonna call it branch to headquarter 1, right? Now there's a couple of configuration questions ask you, so you need to answer whether you want to allow virtual network access from headquarter VNet to branch VNet, branch 1 VNet. That is one way. And the other question asks in the different direction, allow virtual network access from branch 1 VNet to headquarter VNet. So it's asking whether you want to give access from this headquarter 1 to branch 1, or the second question says whether you want to give access from branch 1 to headquarter 1. So we keep both enabled because we need this thing to work from both the directions. Then what would be your setting for the forwarded traffic? So it's asking whether you want to allow the forwarded traffic from branch 1 VNet to headquarter 1 VNet. So basically asking the traffic which is not originating from branch 1 VNet. Do you still want this traffic to allow? Similarly, it's asking whether you want to forward the traffic which is not being originated from headquarter VNet to branch 1. Do you want to allow? By default it stays disabled. If you have this kind of a use case, you can enable it, right? Then we can also use a gateway transit setting. Suppose you want your, let's say you are using a site-to-site connectivity and you want to have a gateway transit. Then it might be your headquarter VNet consisting a gateway, and you want that branch 1 should be able to use that gateway. So you would be allowing this setting, gateway, allow gateway transit, and here you would be configuring allow or use remote gateway. See, we don't have a VNet gateway configured, so we cannot do it, but this is what is required once you have a gateway kind of a situation, right? So you always remember, if you are using a gateway transit, there would be another setting which goes with this one, that would be allow remote gateway or use remote gateway. So that's it. Click on OK. So it is gonna start creating a virtual network peering for us. Let's see how it goes. It's gonna take some time. You need to refresh it. The peering status is still updating. When it shows connected, then you can go and check it. So in the meantime, let's go there and see what happens. So if I'm here, we have configured peering here, and this time it goes, right? So if I go 8, so see, this time we are able to connect, and we are connect with the help of a private IP, not a public IP. So this is a VNet to VNet communication. So we are in there. So let's go and do the other peering as well. You can see the status has been changed to connected. And let's go add one more, and this time what we are going to do is we are going to add peering to our same region, that is west US2 to west US2, and between headquarter VNet to branch 2 VNet. Let's go back, and this time I'm going to call it headquarter to branch 2. I will select my network. This time this is going to be the same region, that the branch 2 VNet, right? Name of the peering, I'm going to give it the reverse of it. So I'll put it here and says, so I'll call it branch 2 to headquarter 2. Okay, I want to keep these things enabled, that I want to allow this virtual network access from both the directions. I also will keep this at default, that I don't want to allow the forwarded traffic, and there is no gateway transit because we don't have a gateway currently. So click on OK. So this is going to create a connect peering between my VNets in the same region, this one, and now we would be able to communicate with the VM1 and VM3. Now you can see that VM1 and VM2 can talk to each other. So it's added. Refresh it, it'll start showing here connected. So you can see headquarter to branch 1 is connected, headquarter 2 to branch 2 is connected. And if I go there, let's open the command prompt. Let's see what's the IP here. So this is my 161.31. So let's I will quickly create a new net firewall rule. Display name, allow ping, and the protocol is ICMP version 4. Enter. So I'm allowing the ping from here, right? So if I ping now 10.0.1.4, I believe it's pinging, right? So that's how. So guys, let's minimize this one and see what happens when we go the other one. If I just go to this one now, let's see, now you can see I can log into the 192.168.1 as well. So let's see whether it works or not. It would be. See, voila, we can connect to this one as well. Here we go. So we can connect it. So that's it, guys. That's for the demonstration. If you know the drill, let's wait for the next video to come. In the meantime, stay tuned. Thank you.